Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Howard Pinsky. I'm Senior XD Evangelist here at Adobe, and thank you to everyone who's just joining us live on Behance, bright and early, 8:30 in the morning on a beautiful Monday morning, although it's probably not 8:30 where you are. If you are joining us live on Behance, definitely let me know where you're tuning in from. We have a lot of people joining us. We have Anna and Matt, Kelston. I apologize if I mispronounce anyone's name. I do that often. Munir and Andy and Lee and Adobe Live, the Gus Spot, Igor, everyone else. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Right now I'm streaming live from Los Angeles. Next week I'll be in San Francisco doing some really cool stuff. And we've got a lot of really awesome streams coming up. We've got the daily challenges this morning and tomorrow morning and Wednesday and every single day. And we've got a lot of cool Photoshop stuff as well. So if you check out the schedule on Behance, you'll see some cool people and people from Romania and India and Pennsylvania, Toronto, my hometown. Awesome. I love seeing people from Toronto. Miami. I used to live in Miami. Cool place. Don't want to live there again. But Charlotte, Mount Joy. Cool. Awesome. So should we get into this? This is fun. I love kicking off the Daily Creative Challenge. We have our first challenge starting tomorrow morning, bright and early. It'll be announced at 8 o'clock, and then I'll be here at 8:30 to kick things off and show you, kind of show you a few things in Adobe XD to get you started with that challenge. But let me hop over to my screen. Here we are, and Santa Monica and Guatemala, a lot of cool places. I've been to Santa Monica, never been to Guatemala, maybe one day. Awesome. And if it's also your first time using Adobe XD, definitely let me know, because we've got a lot of new users that I think will get a lot from these challenges. And that's one of the reasons why we really do these challenges, is to not only brush up the skills of users who have been already using XD, but also brush up the skills of people who have never touched XD before, because it's a free application. You can download it for free on Adobe's website, and you can just get going. So here I am on the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge landing page, behance.net/Daily Creative Challenge, and we got a few things to take note of on this page. First up, right at the top, if you have not pressed that blue register button, press the blue register button. That will allow you to get notifications through Creative Cloud when a new challenge is available. Again, every day at 8 o'clock you'll get a new challenge, and you'll join me at 8:30 a.m. every single morning, bright and early, except the weekends. I want to spend my weekends sleeping. So every day you'll receive a challenge, and then you're going to join me at 8:30 a.m. every single morning to kind of kick off every day's challenge. And then you're going to be using Adobe XD to design and prototype whatever that challenge is. And starting tomorrow, we're going to talk more about this challenge. We kind of, bounced off what we did last time, but kind of combined it with what we did the time before. So you'll see what we're doing. It's nice. Andy says, I can't believe you haven't registered yet. I know, but if I hit that register button, I can't show what the register button looks like. It's a conundrum. And then you have until March 29th. Wow, we're almost at April to complete all these challenges. And, I always say that even though there's a deadline on this page, there really isn't a deadline. It's not a competition. It's not, you're not winning anything, but you are using this to build up your skills and portfolio. So if you need a few extra days to complete all the challenges, definitely take a few extra days. But every single day after tomorrow, we try to go through and take a look at some of the ones that have really stood out over the last day. So if you do want to get those in, you want to possibly get them reviewed and showcased on the stream, you can do that. But otherwise, don't worry about it. So next steps. Download XD. If you haven't done that yet, fire up your Creative Cloud app, download XD. It is free, which is great. And join us on Slack. This is one of the things I really love about this challenge, is the community behind it. If I hop over to Slack, here we have everyone introducing themselves. We have 14,656 people in Slack. That's crazy. That's a lot of people. And from all over the world, from Toronto and Croatia and Colombia. Awesome. So hop in Slack, introduce yourself, and if you want feedback on some of your designs that you've been creating over the next week or two, throw them in the design feedback section. And we encourage you that, once you ask for feedback, hopefully specific feedback, also give feedback if you receive it. So a bunch of people here are looking for feedback. Jump in there. We also have some great mentors, including Peter and Zach and Chris. Some of them might be in the chat right now. They're going to be giving feedback over the next 2 weeks, and I think Peter might even be streaming on Twitch. He might be streaming again on Twitch, but last time he did, so it's always fun. If you have questions about XD, you can hop in there. You can chat, have a good time. And then every single day, once the challenges are released, they'll unlock down here at the bottom. And, I'll be here to kick things off. So what are we going to be doing today? Now, before I begin, if you are a brand new XD user, I may be a little bit biased because I put this together, but head over to letsxd.com, and I'll put this in the chat right now. Letsxd.com. I've been putting together a series of videos on, starting from scratch in XD, designing, prototyping, sharing from the very beginning, to importing files from Illustrator and Photoshop, and then, a bunch of the features that really stand out about XD. And you can watch all these videos at your leisure, completely free. Definitely jump in there, start learning. And we have a lot packed for this year in 2019. If you thought last year was good for XD, I think this year might be even better. I've been playing around with some of the features that are coming up, and I posted this on Twitter that, there's a feature coming up in XD. I can't talk about it just yet, but, I discovered something about that feature that helps in a completely different aspect, and I've been freaking out because it's so exciting. Maybe I'll convince Talon to let me show it off next week. We'll see. But maybe you can throw some guesses in the chat of what this might be, but I'm excited. There's a lot of really cool stuff coming up, but in the meantime, I want to show you what's available right now in XD. And this feature in particular, repeat grids, has been available since day one, which still blows my mind. Every time I use repeat grids, not only do people jump in chat and say you should take a shot when I say repeat grids, don't do that. But it always blows my mind because it's so cool and so helpful. So let me kind of give you an overview of some of the cool features that really stand out and will help you get going on XD. So first one is repeat grids. You may have seen this from time to time. You may not have seen this, who knows. But let me go and start creating something. I'm gonna hop into design mode, and I'm going to, let's say I'm gonna create a box. This will house an image. And I'm gonna put that box right there. Beautiful. I'll just fill it with whatever, just so I can see the box on the white background. And I might want some text underneath it. Maybe this text will have the name of the city. So this will be San Francisco. Let me change the fill so I can see the text. It's always helpful. Oh, I didn't change it. There we go. There we go. So we have San Francisco. Great city. I'll be there next week, actually. I'll be streaming live from San Francisco next week. So there we go. So now we have two elements, right? And we might want to create a gallery on this page, kind of going across the page and down and that sort of thing. Now, traditionally, if you were doing this in Photoshop or other applications, you would have to drag in an image here, and then you have to duplicate this, replace the image, change the text, duplicate this down again. It's a lot of work, and no one's about that life. So repeat grids makes this process incredibly simple. What I'm able to do is simply select both of these elements, the rectangle and the text, and over here to the right, I'm going to hit the repeat grid button. Boop. There we go. And now we have a repeat grid, as you can tell with the handles at the right and the bottom, these little green handles. And this will allow me to just drag out additional entries across my artboard. So I can do it horizontally. I can also do it vertically. So now I have 6 additional entries, or 6 entries in total. I can adjust the spacing if I wanted to, just like this, very easily. I can move it and center it. And that's great and all, but once it comes time to actually get some content into this repeat grid, how are we gonna do that? Well, let me hop over to Finder. Here's Finder, and I have a folder here of a bunch of images. And what I'm able to do, I could go ahead and just drag one image into this one, and then drag an image into this one. And it'll continue to repeat those images throughout the grid, but there's a much easier way. I can just select, let's say 6 images. Is this 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And just drag all 6 images into the repeat grid. Boop, and it does it. And I can just jump in. I can adjust the mask if I wanted to individually, just like that. There we go. So right away we have 6 entries, 6 images. But what about text? I could go in there and adjust each text individually, but no one wants to do that, right? Here I have a plain text document. Maybe my copy editor provided it to me, or I just whipped it up from a Google Sheet or whatever it might be. I can do the exact same thing I did just a minute ago with images. I can just drag a plain text document into Adobe XD onto any of these text layers, and it's going to automatically populate that throughout the grid as well, just like it did with images. And then I can go in, maybe this isn't Toronto, maybe this is Boston. I can override that individually. And now I have a completed repeat grid, which is super cool, super handy, and it saves a ton of time because I used to do stuff like this in Photoshop. And while I love Photoshop, don't get me wrong, as Abdul just said, it is a time saver. It really does help, which is great. And then even after the fact, you can also go back and make changes. So let's say I wanted this text actually on top of the image. Maybe I want it insetted a little bit, and I'm gonna change the color to white. There we go. And then I can go in, change the repeat grid, or change the spacing. There we go. And Sabrina, I am using Adobe XD, showing all the cool features that XD has. There we go. Perfect. I can also add in elements after as well. So I can go to my Creative Cloud libraries, and XD syncs really nicely with your Creative Cloud libraries. And I can grab, let's say, this bookmark icon, just drag it in here. Now right now it is linked to Illustrator, so I can go back. If I wanted to, I can edit it directly back in Illustrator, or I can right click on it and unlink the graphic. That way I can edit it because it's a vector image. I can edit it directly in Adobe XD. So I might want to change this to white as well. Or you know what, maybe I want just a border. Maybe I'll increase the size to, let's say 2. Make this a little bit smaller. And position it. And you're noticing that as I'm doing this, it updates on every single repeat grid card, which is super cool. So you don't have to go in and repeat the process 800 times. So it doesn't matter if you have one repeat grid card or several hundred. I've seen it been done with like 1,000 cards, and it just works. It's really cool. So that's repeat grids. Next feature I want to talk about is responsive resize. And by the way, we're going to kind of go over a lot of this stuff over the next 2 weeks. So I'll definitely revisit some of this stuff if you missed out on it or if you want a little bit of a recap. But you can also go to my website, letsxd.com. There's some videos on a lot of this stuff. Hey, Peter, one of our awesome mentors, is in the chat. Welcome, Peter. Next up is responsive resize. So you may have encountered this situation where you're working on a design and you started off at desktop, or maybe you started with a mobile design, but now you want to see how things are going to look on the opposite screen, whether it's desktop to mobile or mobile to desktop, whatever it might be. You kind of want to see what that's going to look like, but you don't want to redo the entire thing. So with responsive resize, you can very easily get about 80% of the way there. It's probably never going to get you 100% of the way there because of the way, designs are just laid out. You always have personal opinions on where content should go at different sizes. But if we can get you about 80% of the way there, that'll help tremendously. So in this example, I may want to go from a desktop to a mobile, right? So I'm going to duplicate this artboard over to the right. And I can do that either by holding down Alt or Option and dragging over, or selecting the artboard, Command and Control D, and it's going to duplicate it. Now, by default, if I just grab the side and drag it in, nothing's going to really happen. It's going to hide a lot of the content. And that's because we want users to be able to increase the size of their artboard or decrease it at their leisure without messing up their content. But when the time comes that you're ready to actually adjust it for a different screen size, you can turn on the responsive resize option to the right. And that will allow me to grab this artboard and drag it inwards. And you're noticing a lot of the content is nicely shifting across my document, and the repeat grid is also kind of collapsing, which is nice. But you might be noticing that, again, it's not perfect. It'll get you about 80% of the way there. This image isn't really resizing the way I wanted it to. And in that case, we can start talking about constraints. So if I select this group here, and I select this group here, I can go over here to Manual and make sure that fixed width is not turned on, because that's basically telling XD to keep the width the same of this group. So I'm going to turn that off. And now if I select the artboard and then resize it, you're noticing it's nicely resizing. There we go. And now at this point, we've got about 80% of the way there, maybe even a little bit more. I can go in and just make some additional changes. I can select both of these and I can just resize them. Just like that. Might have to make some adjustments to the text. And for this one, whoops, for my repeat grid, I can either do one of two things. I can select the repeat grid and drag this off to give users the impression that they can slide or swipe over, or I can ungroup the grid and make that just a single image. Whichever one I want, I can definitely do. So there's repeat grid, and again, it works both ways, desktop to mobile, mobile to desktop, to tablet, whatever it might be. It also works with individual groups and layers, as you saw just a second ago. So that's super cool, and we will be touching on that during this challenge. Next, I want to talk a little bit about assets, and this is one of the cool things that XD has that allows you to really not only save your character styles, colors, or symbols, but it also allows you to update them. So let's say on this document here, I have a bunch of colors, I have a bunch of text that I want changes, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start by just adding some assets. So I'm going to go down here right to the bottom. This is our assets button. And if I like this color, I can simply press the plus button over here beside colors, and it's going to add that to my asset. So I can very easily access it anywhere else in my website. So if I'm over here, I want to just simply change this over to this color, I just click on it and it does it. Very easy. I can also do the same with character styles. I can just go through and start adding some character styles that I really like. Let's say this one's good. I can just add that as well. Beautiful. Now, you might get to a point in your project where either you or your creative director decides, you know what, I'm not a big fan of this red color. I might want to change it to black or some sort of a dark gray, right? Now, going through and updating this color manually on every single artboard. Imagine if you had hundreds of artboards in this project, all of a sudden you've been told you have to change the colors of them. Don't want to do that, right? And the cool thing about assets is you don't have to do that. So you have this color added in your assets panel. All I have to do is right click on it, press edit, and then make the change. And you're noticing XD is kind of taking note of where that color is in this document. And it doesn't have to be on a single artboard. It can be anywhere in your document. And it's going to make that change. So all those red pinkish color has now changed to black at the direction of my creative director. And the same works for text as well. And it can work all retroactively. So you don't have to have those at the very beginning. So let's say, you know, I'm surprised no one's noticed this yet, but I've got papyrus going on here. Papyrus. Who uses papyrus except James Cameron maybe? But I've got papyrus here. I don't know why I put papyrus, but I'm going to add this character style to my assets panel. I'm going to simply right click on it. I'm going to edit, and let's say I'm going to just change it to Acumen Pro, condensed. Maybe I'll make it a little bit bolder. Bam. There we go. So not only did it change it in that text layer, but it also changed it over here, here, and here, right? Which is super cool. Now, symbols is also another cool thing that is in XD, and symbols is going to be changing soon so that you'll be able to resize them, and there's a lot of cool stuff coming up. But let's say, let me delete these. Boop. And boop. Delete those. Perfect. So I've got this symbol, this asset here, just made up of two layers. And all I have to do to make this a symbol is either press the plus button in my assets panel or Command and Control K. I'll just do that and it'll add it right over here. So it's going to be called plus, just like this. And the cool thing about symbols is it gives you very quick access to your assets that you're going to use on a constant basis. So if I go over here and want to add that symbol here, just drag it out and I can pop it in place. Drag one over here, change it to Comic Sans. Jason, please leave. I'm just kidding. Don't leave. I appreciate Comic Sans. There we go. Actually, fun fact about Comic Sans, it helps a lot of people with dyslexia because it's not a very consistent typeface, kind of like these typefaces are. It's a lot easier for people with dyslexia to read it. So there's a benefit to Comic Sans. Heather says, did I hear resizable symbols? Yes, you did. Coming soon to Adobe XD with some other benefits. So I have now all these symbols of this plus button, and there's a few benefits. Not only can you access them very easily, but you can also make changes. So if you wanted to, let's say, decrease the opacity of these, you can just do it on one symbol, and it's going to decrease the opacity of all of them. And the same works maybe if you wanted, let's say, this plus button to be a little bit bigger. You can do that, and it's going to update on all the symbols as well. There's also symbol swapping, and I'll do this very quickly because I'm running out of time. Let me create another symbol. Maybe I'll fill this one, use my shortcut key for eyedropper, I, like that. And I'll do a plus button right in the middle. This will be very scrappy, but here's my new symbol. So my creative director comes to me and says, you know what? I don't like this border, right? I want this symbol instead for my plus buttons. So I'm going to turn this into a symbol, Command or Control K with both of those layers selected. This will be the plus button black. I can delete this from my artboard now. And now that all of these symbols are in place, again, imagine if you had hundreds of artboards throughout your document, updating each and every one would not be easy. So I can just grab this, drag it onto any existing symbol, and it's going to replace it across my entire document. So symbols are super cool, and again, they'll be resizable soon. There also has some overrides and, you know, maybe some other things. So we'll see. We'll talk about that more later. Next up, let's talk about prototyping a little bit. In like 5 minutes we have left. Maybe 7 minutes. We'll see. Prototyping, there's a few different aspects to prototyping. You can start very simple, right? You can do, if you want, let's say, you want to click on this artboard here or this card here, and you want it to transition to another artboard. You go into prototype mode, you select one card, drag the handle over to the second. You want to choose which triggers. In this case, I want a user to tap on the artboard or the card, press on that, auto animate. Now, we'll do transition for now. We'll get into auto animate in a second. Then you can choose how you want the transition to take place. Do you want it to just dissolve? Do you want it to just cut, which is none? Or do you want it to slide? So I'm going to do, let's say, a slide right, and we'll see what that looks like. We'll do an in and out, so it kind of eases in at the end, beginning and end, and then we'll do 0.4 seconds. And now when we preview this prototype with not the plus button, the play button at the top right, we can scroll down, we can click on this card, and everything's going to kind of slide over, which is super nice. And you can link up to pretty much anything. So if you want to do this one, you can link up this to that, press the play button, and it slides over. Then of course you can always jump in. Maybe I want this to slide left instead. I can just do that. Maybe I want on this artboard, it goes to the search screen. And you're noticing it maintains the properties of the last transition that you created. And it's very cool. And then we have, overlays as well. So maybe on this screen, I want to automatically pop up this overlay. So with the entire artboard selected, I'm going to drag this over to this artboard, which just contains the keyboard, which I got from a UI kit. I'll do a time transition because I want to take place immediately after the transition takes place with 0 seconds. I'm going to do overlay this time. And this will allow me to choose where I want this keyboard to show up. I'm going to pop it right there. I'll make sure to have it slide up from the bottom, and we'll do an in and out as well. So now when I go here, preview this, click on the search box, it's going to slide over, and then the keyboard's going to pop up just like that. And that's the cool thing about overlays is you can hook up a single artboard to many, many different screens to save a lot of space. Next up, very quickly, auto animate. We're going to talk a lot about auto animate during this challenge, but there's a few aspects to auto animate. The first is a drag trigger. So on this case, I might want to show what it looks like when a user swipes this gallery at the top over. So I'm going to select one of these cards, drag this over to the right. This will be drag. Auto animate is automatically the default, and I press play, and I can simply drag this over, and I have one already set up for this artboard, and I can easily do that just like this. Then I can combine that with a tap trigger. So over here, I selected this card here, and I drag this over to here. Tap is the trigger, and auto animate is the action. And what basically, very quickly, what XD is looking for is changes, right? So it's looking at the differences between these two artboards, and it's going to animate the changes. So it noticed that on this artboard, I made this photo larger, and then I moved kind of these images away and faded them in the background. So when I press play and I press on this image, it pops up, and then I have a time transition that goes directly to this next artboard where the tools bar at the bottom slides up. And then you can combine all of this stuff with, let's say, drag triggers. So I have this, let's say I want to click on the crop button, drag that over there, tap, we'll do a snap into place, 0.2 seconds, and then I have this little handle here. I can drag this over and make this a drag trigger. So now I click on crop, and then I can drag this to do my little cropping interaction. And now I'm left with the finalized crop photo. So there's a lot of really cool stuff within Adobe XD, including voice, including sharing, and we're going to talk all about this stuff over the next 2 weeks. Tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m., bright and early, we're going to be kicking off day 1 of the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. This was kind of the, meet the teacher day and introduction to the class. And then tomorrow, I'm giving you homework. So stay tuned. I'll see you all bright and early tomorrow morning. Definitely join us on Slack to talk about all the cool things that are coming up. Share your feedback, share your designs, all that fun stuff. Thank you everyone who's joining me. And stick around. Paul Tranny is going to be up right after me with getting started in Photoshop, which is super cool. Paul's a great guy, great designer. Stick around for that, and I'll see you all very soon. See ya.